Satellite images show a Russian military convoy about 64 kilometers long moving towards Ukrainian capital Kiev. This former Singaporean actor in Kiev shares updates on the mood and morale of the people in the city as the invasion goes into day 6. And the GST hike continues to be a topic of discussion on the second day of the budget debate in Parliament. Hello, I'm Olivia Quay. You're watching The Big Story. It's 5:30 p.m. in Singapore, 11:30 a.m. in Ukraine as the country enters the 6th day of its invasion by Russia. Now we start in the northeastern city of Kharkiv, where Russian forces have struck Freedom Square in the city center with a powerful explosion. A video shows a missile slamming into the front of the regional state administration building. The strike was reported a few hours ago at 8 a.m. local time. No injuries or casualties have been reported yet. Meanwhile, a massive Russian military convoy was seen earlier today just north of Kiev and pushing towards the capital. These satellite images by U.S. space technology company Maxar capturing the convoy about 64 kilometers long. Maxar says it comprised armored vehicles, tanks, towed artillery and other logistical vehicles. Former Singapore actor Ik Shen now lives in Kiev, and in another update yesterday with my Straits Times colleague, he says he and his wife have enough food and other essential items, and that even after several days of turmoil, water, electricity and communications remain unaffected in his area, and people are calm. Here he is describing the current mood.
How would you then describe the mood now compared to maybe a couple of days ago?
When the airstrike first started, the fear element was strong, right? By now, the fear element is no longer there. It's tense. Everyone is tense. Everyone knows it's a hard times. But the morale is high. The morale is high because everybody knows that what they are doing is just. Everybody knows that the world is rallying behind that because it's a completely unprovoked attack, and nobody should give in right now and show weakness. And this is something that's very unifying.
You can watch the full interview on the Straits Times' YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to so you don't miss any of our breaking news updates on the Ukraine crisis. Activate the bell icon to get notified the next time we go live. Now, March the 1st marks the end of Russia's monthly term as the United Nations Security Council President, which rotates every month among the 15 members. The Security Council's powers include establishing peacekeeping operations, enacting international sanctions, and authorizing military action. Now, the UN General Assembly convened on Monday for a rare special emergency session, only the 10th time this has been done since the UN was formed after World War II. All 193 member states are expected to vote on a resolution similar to the one that Russia vetoed in the Security Council last week, which condemned the invasion. Unlike the Security Council, the General Assembly has no real power, as its decisions are not binding on member states. In an ST roundtable today, veteran Singapore diplomat Kishore Mahbubani talks about the UN's role and relevance. Professor Mahbubani was Singapore's ambassador to the UN for 10 years.
I know that multilateral institutions like the United Nations constrain great powers. And what is significant is that all great powers, it doesn't matter whether United States, Soviet Union, Russia, China, believe that a weaker United Nations is better than a stronger United Nations. And if you want proof of this, when it comes to selecting the Secretary General of the United Nations, if you have the potential of being a strong, dynamic chief executive officer who can lead the organization to greater heights, you're disqualified. But if you are weak, and if you understand what the great powers want, and you meet their needs, then you become UN Secretary General. Now, this is an open secret within the UN community. So when you say that the UN has been failing, it's been failing by design, and it's been failing because there has been a long-term process to undermine it. But at the same time, just to balance that, I'm very glad that this Russian invasion of Ukraine has made everyone now more aware of the UN Charter, of the principles of the UN Charter, which clearly forbid such invasions. And the fact that this principle is being reaffirmed as a result of Ukraine is a very positive development for the world.
Professor Mahbubani also explains why there's been no clear and loud opinion from ASEAN on the crisis in Ukraine.
Some ASEAN countries, not Singapore, obviously. I think Ravi was absolutely right when he said that Singapore's statement is crystal clear and very strong. But that is, of course, typical of ASEAN, because when you have 10 very diverse member states in ASEAN, it's perfectly normal for ASEAN to come up with wishy-washy statements. And as you know, ASEAN is a very weak organization. But the one thing that I have documented in my book, The ASEAN Miracle, that the paradox of ASEAN is that its strength lies in its weakness. And because it's so weak, everybody underestimates it and doesn't appreciate the strong historic contributions that ASEAN has made. So, for example, the biggest event of 2022 before this Russian invasion of Ukraine was the launch of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, the world's largest free trade agreement. And the United States cannot put together a press conference of United States, Japan, and South Korea. ASEAN managed to persuade Japan and South Korea and China to sign a free trade agreement. Now, that's a really big deal that is changing the course of world history. And only ASEAN could do it because it's so weak, everybody trusts it. So the weakness of ASEAN, therefore, which is a liability in some areas, is also an asset in some areas. But in any case, even if ASEAN issued a strong statement, it will make no difference whatsoever.
Day 2 of the budget debate and the impending GST hike still a key issue raised in Parliament this afternoon. In delivering the budget statement back on February the 18th, Finance Minister Lawrence Wong had allayed concerns about companies who might profiteer off of the hike, which he said a new committee against profiteering will be introduced. Well, today MP Shairul Taha had some clarifications on the committee's scope.
How can we prevent businesses from passing costs straight to consumers instead of everyone shouldering a bit of the pain? Can I also seek clarification from the Minister on how the Committee Against Profiteering will be implemented, and how will it address concerns of businesses perceived to be profiteering from the GST increase? How can the Committee Against Profiteering identify the singular causes of price increase and hence identify businesses profiteering from GST?
Meanwhile, Workers' Party MPs reiterated the party's stance against the GST hike, citing concerns for the long-term efficacy of the proposed measures in cushioning the impacts of the increase.
It remains my belief that a consumption tax hike should be the last resort to increasing revenue. This is because the GST is an inherently regressive tax, to which the poor pay a higher percentage of their income compared to the rich. In Singapore, only a portion of the GST paid is returned in the form of GST vouchers. The GST offsite package is meant to help lower-income households adjust, but this will last only 5 to 10 years. However, the GST hike will be forever.
WP MPs also questioned the inclusivity of the budget. WP Chairman Sylvia Lim highlighted the, quote, inadvertently alienating examples in Mr. Wong's budget speech.
There are 4 household scenarios highlighted. It will be noted that all the households comprise of a wedded couple living in an HDB flat, mostly with children. If the couple is of working age, the husband is always older and always earns more than the wife. There is a further assumption that all household members are Singapore citizens. I wonder if the ministry could in future be broader in its illustrations to capture some other types of households. Such other types of households, which are not uncommon, include divorced families, families with a foreign spouse, and adult singles living with elderly parents. By including some other types of households, we can have a fuller picture of the impact of tax changes on different segments of society. More importantly, I believe including them would have an important signalling effect that every household, whatever its composition, is part and parcel of the Singapore Compact.
MP Melvin Yong, who's president of the Consumer Association of Singapore, says the Price Khaki app will be expanded to cover an additional 200 cooked food stalls and 6,000 more grocery and household essential items. Mr. Yong also talks about onboarding neighbourhood merchants onto Lazada, starting with Radin Mas.
I'm therefore glad that Lazada Singapore has partnered Radin Mas to launch the Radin Mas Marketplace at Lazada. This will be Singapore's first e-marketplace for heartland shops. Lazada will onboard all interested merchants and hawkers in Radin Mas, which number close to 600, and allow them to list their first 100 items on the e-marketplace at no cost. Lazada will also teach our merchants how to better engage with younger customers, such as through live streaming. Merchants and consumers can also benefit from the occasional promotional campaigns organized by Lazada.
In other news, from Thursday, travellers on the Singapore-Malaysia air and land VTLs no longer need to undergo COVID-19 antigen rapid tests within 6 days of arrival in Malaysia. Currently, these VTL travellers will have to take an ART on the 2nd, 4th and 6th day. Malaysia's Health Minister Kari Jamaluddin, though, says the pre-departure and on-arrival COVID-19 tests remain as per existing protocol. Dream Cruises vessel World Dream will stop operations after it returns to Singapore tomorrow. The cruise operator says it no longer has the financial capacity to keep going. Customers who have paid deposits for sailings after tomorrow can submit their refund claims, although whether these will be successful is yet unknown. And the Coconut Club, best known for its nasi lemak, will be closing its outlet at Ann Siang Hill on March 31st and moving to a bigger location that can seat 100 people across many floors. While the address of the new location hasn't been disclosed, it's slated to open in early May. Well, those are our top stories for today. Visit straitstimes.com for more news and our YouTube channel for more videos. Subscribe by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. Thanks for watching The Big Story. See you tomorrow.